All right. Good morning, everybody. We've only got 24 folks so far, but I say we press on and start moving forward. 25. Hope everybody's doing well today. Hopefully we can finish up this subject today and move on. First thing I wanted to touch on was the discount rate. Joe, are you aware of any further developments on the discount rate?
No, I think it's part of the larger discussion. So I don't know that anyone is specifically focused on that just yet, but maybe others can speak to that.
Okay, and same goes with the geographic boundary and emissions benefit, I assume?
I have not heard back. I know the last we had discussed, there was a scenario 17 or whatever, which would include I was proposing the utilities had come back with, which was a 9 cent per kilowatt hour benefit. And then the utilities had come, Sheldon said in the last meeting that he thought he could get the utilities to 7.5 cents. And that's the last that I know. So, and I haven't, no one's really wanted to talk to me about it this week.
Okay. Is there anybody from the utilities that could comment on where the utilities are at?
Hi, this is Lori. There's a group from the Joint Electric Utilities and OPC that are finishing up a conversation, and they asked me to jump off. I'm obviously the least important person on that call. They asked me to jump off that call.
Or you're the most important person for this meeting.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. So start with wherever you need to without them, but there's probably 10 or so folks at least that we're hoping to be finished before 10 o'clock.
Okay, I guess you don't have a timeline as to when they're going to be able to join.
They said they would be momentarily. I looked at the clock, told them it was a couple minutes after 10, and said they really need to wind it up. So.
All right. Well, rather than tread water here, why don't we just? I apologize for the inconvenience, but why don't we just give them 5 minutes or so? And hopefully, by then they'll have wrapped up their meeting and we can move forward. So if everybody could just kind of stand by and we'll come back maybe about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Okay. If you just check back. Thanks.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, welcome back, everybody. I forgot to add at the beginning, I am recording this. Looks like we've got some, if not all, of the utility and OPC folks. So what do you guys got for us? Got some great agreement?
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I apologize for our lateness. We have had 3 meetings between OPC and the joint electric utilities in the past week, as well as some additional meetings with BGE. We were trying to finalize something just before this meeting. We had 2 meetings this morning. We are very close to an agreement on multiple issues. We have discussed discount rate, emissions benefits, and non-energy benefits as well. And we've all agreed that if perhaps we had an hour-long lunch break, we think we could wrap up any discussions during the lunch break, but we are very close.
Okay, that's fine. All right, we can do that.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so we'll table all that stuff. Well, I guess what are we going to talk about? So, because that's a lot of that stuff is what we were going to hit, unless I'm sure, Nicole, did any of that include discount rate, geographic boundaries, emission benefits?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's all in there. Okay. All right. So that kind of wipes out what I wanted to talk to about first.
Judge McLean, can I?
Yeah, sir.
So Nicole, I just want to make sure I sent an email this morning. Sorry I was late, but I was kind of waiting. I was hoping to hear from people yesterday and I didn't. So this morning I decided I better get it out. And so I just want to flag that for y'all. Basically, it's the related, my proposal for a catch-all adder, and why I think that makes more sense than a narrow project risk, or not a narrow ratepayer risk adder, and also some comments on health and safety, and an alternate, and some alternatives. So I just wanted to flag that for you in terms of if y'all hadn't seen it. I've talked to a couple people about it, but I hadn't heard back, so I don't know if it hasn't been socialized to the larger group.
And I'll be honest that we were probably in a meeting when it was sent, and we did not have time to discuss it. So we honestly had all of our discussions under a different maybe set of assumptions. So it might, we will certainly try to read it in the lunch break and bring it back into the discussions, but we haven't yet been able to include it in our discussions.
Okay, and I can summarize it very quickly. And I think I have discussed it with at least people who are in that group.
1 second, Joe.
Yeah.
Sheldon, you had your hand up, sir? Sheldon?
You muted, Sheldon?
Yeah, I was muted. I think, Joe, we can work with you on that. However we characterize that particular adder. So but you can go ahead and summarize what you sent out. Okay.
Well, yeah, and I don't need to, if everybody's, as long as it's in the discussion. Basically, I had proposed to a couple people a 10% catch-all adder that would include the ratepayer risk, but also would recognize that there's other non-energy benefits that are hard to quantify, as well as other hard to quantify non-energy costs. And as I said in the last meeting, my concern has been that we there's kind of this messaging or whatever, or belief out there that the cost effectiveness is currently done in a lot of jurisdictions, omits a lot of benefits and counts all the costs. And I don't think that's accurate. And I'm just pushing back on us in terms of how we characterize this situation. So I proposed a 10% catch-all adder. So I think we're well within the range of what as far as I know, people have been discussing on a non-energy benefit side. It's a difference of characterization. And then on the health and safety, I commented on, in my email this morning, just how I did think Jim Gravat's comments last week were compelling, basically from the field, talking about all the different ways that he thinks these programs save lives or make people healthier. So I gave a kind of opined on that, or I gave basically I included a thought experiment in my email. There is a little worksheet that I did as a thought experiment, just seeing how reasonable 5% was, or 15% was, or whatever. Because I think once we agree on that it's in the benefit direction, then we still have a question of magnitude. And what I found not compelling that I've seen so far were the adders that were being cited from other jurisdictions, which were used to come up with the 15% health and safety proposal. But I had kind of dug around previously and suspected that they were not really relevant, that those were catch-all adders, that they were not health and safety specific, that they were including a bunch of other stuff, including comfort, which we already include. I said that in the meeting last week. Christine Hungling, my colleague, went and dug in some more on those and came back with the same conclusion. So this is not just my high-level sense. She's concluded that those adders are not health and safety adders, and thus I don't see how they're really relevant to the discussion around health and safety adders. So so I don't know what the right answer is. I think it's something significantly less than has been proposed in a percentage terms. But this little spreadsheet that I sent, just basically shows to do a 5%. If it's a 5% adder, then basically it's every 13,000 homes or so, you're assuming a life gets saved. And every 13,000 homes that get retrofit, there's a life being saved. That when I say a life being saved, that's using a $7 million statistical value of life. And that's not necessarily that someone didn't die. It's that it could be a combination of somebody didn't die and people were less sick than they would have been. And so that combination, so that's kind of a reality check for everybody. Do you think out of 13,000 retrofits that there will be a life saved? To me, that doesn't seem unreasonable. If you go to 15%, if you go to 5%, you're saying every 38,000 homes, you're going to have a life saved. If you go to 15%, you're saying every 13,000 homes. And I don't know what it's kind of, that's as close to a gut, close to an analytical response as I can get to it based on what I'm seeing in the literature. So I think the health and safety, I'm basically putting on the table a 5%, I think. I'd be curious if Jim or Sabine or others have any thoughts on that, on how we get to a number. If we all agree that they're a number, the direction of the number, how would we get to the number?
All right, Joe, Babatunde, you had your hand up, sir.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you, George. Joe, I was curious about how you came about the 10% for the unquantifiable costs and benefits.
Yeah. So it's just it's a negotiated number. So I think I have not heard anyone object to this notion that we have a lot of or hard to quantify benefits and costs out there that are not included in our analysis, right? I don't think anyone said, no, our analysis is complete. There's no more to be done. All the numbers are there that should be. What we've really argued about is one, there's, I think, we've argued about what costs and benefits are being left out and what is the relative magnitude of those costs and benefits. I personally I think 10% is too high personally, right? But that's just my gut feel. And my sense is that there are quite a few people in this group, at least the ones who are speaking up, who have a strong feeling that the non-energy benefits exceed the non-energy costs, and that on balance, we are under counting the benefits, the net benefits of the programs. And so the 10% is just recognition that some people have that, not all of us. It's that I'm not saying that we all agree with that, but there are some people who have a very strong feeling on that. And I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. So I can kind of go along with strong feelings of other people, but that's what I'm down to. And where I'm really trying to push back on, though, is to kind of be selective. We pick and choose. So we're going to do a risk benefit because it is supposedly quantified. One, I don't I don't agree with that. It's no more quantified than a bunch of other stuff. But also shouldn't be our criteria for what we include in our cost effectiveness analysis. If we're only going to do things where there's a quantified number, right? I don't even know if I do emissions, because you look at the spread on our emissions numbers, right? There's so much uncertainty around all of those numbers that, there's plenty of people who are still denying climate, right? So it's like, what do you, if our criteria is a number that's calculated, quantified, then we're going to leave a bunch of stuff out. And that I have always been opposed to that, because climate change was unquantified for many years. And I've argued all my life or all my career, that zero is not, that just because it's unquantified doesn't mean it's zero. And that's by leaving it out, you're assuming it's zero. And I would apply that same principle to the non-energy costs. So that's where I have the counter proposal. If people really want to put in a non-energy benefit, I told y'all last week, I committed to going and doing something on the other side and giving my counter proposal. So if we're going to have a non-energy benefit adder, or just a price volatility risk adder, then I'm proposing it's actually, my number is wrong in there. It says 21% in my email. I'm actually proposing a 12%. So sorry about that. Adder for non-energy costs. Is that a little clearer, Tunde?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was some kind of literature to back up the 10%, and that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Because it seemed a little arbitrary, but yeah.
I think what the closest we have right now is the literature that OPC and VEIC and Chris Nemi have provided related to the ratepayer volatility. And there's several studies. Like I said before, I've tried to understand the New England avoided energy cost discussion on that, and I just don't understand it. But I know that the ACEEE report looked at this issue. They came up with some numbers, and from talking to one of the authors, 10% was a reasonable number just on the project risk number. So I would take, start at 10% and knock it down if I was just doing it by myself. Given the strong feelings of quite a few people in this group and out in the world, that the non-energy benefits exceed the non-energy cost, I'm willing, as a negotiated, position, or I could see that being reasonable. But the short answer, Tunde, is there's no, we can do, it's a lot of arm waving, is about the best we're going to do. And we can all go pull out numbers, from different reports, over the last 20 years to come up with our own, kind of that supports our own worldviews. And, I submit to all of us, that's the best we're going to do. That's the best I can do. And that's, I think, the best y'all can do. So we end up at a negotiation anyway. What feels okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Sabine, yes.
Hi, yes, Sabine Rogers, Building Performance Association. I wanted to respond to circle back on the health and safety adder specifically, kind of ignoring the rest of it for a second. First off, thank you so much, Joe, for your email this morning, and for putting together the Excel spreadsheet that kind of looks at the lives saved per one life saved per retrofitted households. And we circulated earlier this week a compromise proposal on behalf of BPA, as well as the Efficiency Advocates MEEA series and NEEP as well. And the number that we proposed was a 10% adder. So I actually used, Joe, your spreadsheet that you put together, and it looks like that would come out to be one life saved per about 19,000 retrofitted homes. And we are still, putting this out to the group as a compromise. And I think the key piece I wanted to highlight as well is in terms of looking at how other states address health and safety. I think we've acknowledged from the outset that there's a lot of different ways that it's done, and generally is done in a more catch-all adder that includes pieces like comfort and water savings that Maryland does already account for. The key difference that I saw, and I'd be interested, Joe, if you or Christine saw something different, but they're generally applied at a much higher level. And so this proposal is really just focused on home energy retrofits and then the HVAC replacements that aren't electric to electric, so those that would result in fuel savings. And we've seen really compelling evidence for each of those, specific program categories. So for that reason, we think 10% is a reasonable, level to compromise at. And I think, if you're looking at how the other states have higher or lower levels, they're applied across, a much broader range of programs. So I think it's difficult to compare apples to apples, but I think the goal there was to just point to, ranges that we've seen in other states, although not exactly directly equivalent to how things are being done and proposed here in Maryland.
Yeah, and Sabine, do you are y'all aware of any specific health and safety adders out there that y'all could point to?
Yeah, so I haven't found any that are purely health and safety. So it includes, sometimes they acknowledge that there are other hard to quantify non-energy benefits and they don't explicitly state them, right?
Yeah, understood.
So, yeah, but I haven't seen any that are purely health and safety.
So let me just go with the 10%, just putting it in my little thought experiment. And by the way, I don't know if this thought experiment is meaningful to anyone else, but me. But I was just trying to think of some way to get to a, get a reality check. And so when I put 10% in as an adder, that basically we're assuming that the equivalent of a life is being saved. This is, of course, if you agree with the statistical value of life concept at all, but that's what the government uses. That's roughly that's 19 every 19,000 homes that you retrofit as part of the home performance program, you would have the equivalent of a life saved. And when I hear stuff, like Jim's, it doesn't take much to save a life, right? Every time, now code requires that you have carbon monoxide and detectors and smoke detectors in your homes, but there's a lot of people who don't. And I will say on my home performance project, that was one thing that they had to do before they could do the home performance project. And so that's even, right? I'm not a low income home. I'm a middle income home. And so, there's an example of all it takes is one fire, right? Or one, leaky, I've had a plugged up secondary heat exchanger on my furnace, so that could have created a carbon monoxide issue. And all it takes is one time and, I'm dead. And then y'all can all talk about how much my life is worth. Probably not 7 million, but, but that's, it's, and then if you add into that all the asthma related, to the extent, again, we have some question about direction, but to the extent that the programs are going in and kind of at least pointing out to participants that you got ventilation issues, we need to, we need some full house ventilation. To the extent that happens, at least on occasion, those could be real. As long as, the biggest concern is probably that you have incompetent contractors doing the home performance program and they're not recognizing that stuff. They're just going and insulating and air sealing. But we can, we'll assume that that's not happening. So, ultimately, I mean, that's where I come, it's like, do I think it's reasonable as a gut check that 19,000 homes would save you a life? Looks like Ed's trying to jump in, Judge.
Yep. Yeah, no, I would wait. I didn't know if that was a pregnant pause by you or not. So, Ed,
okay.
You have your hand up, sir.
I just had a clarifying question to Joe. Joe, I think I heard you mention when you were discussing health and safety in your research around that, your conclusions. I think did I hear you say that includes comfort, or that the literature provided to support the percentages included comfort?
Yeah. So there's a couple different angles on that. One, the percentages that were provided that at least were used in the original proposal were for adders from other jurisdictions that are not health and safety adders. They are kind of catch-all adders. In other words, my understanding, at least for several of those, is there are no other non-energy benefits included. That is the non-energy benefit. So if it's 15%, that's not 15% plus comfort plus health and safety plus, other things. So that's why I say in my email this morning, I still don't think, I'm even more sure that they are not really relevant to a health and safety adder. But then going to the literature, the primary study that's in terms of a meta-analysis that's been proposed, that's been, put in front of us is the DOE Healthy Homes Group report, which, if I'm perfectly candid, it reads like an advocate's report. It's the way things are worded is kind of, it's kind of like squiggly wording to say what they, I think, wanted to say. That's my sense of it, and I don't want to, castigate the authors, but that's my sense of it. I would not draw the same conclusions that the advocates have drawn from that study, from that meta-analysis, or that the authors of that study did. But the main differences that I think come down to these categories of studies that they were looking at. They were not just looking at energy efficiency retrofits. That is one category, and that's called their base efficiency retrofit. I think, base efficiency, set. There are 7 studies there. There's a second one, as Sabine and others pointed out in their email last week, called the enhanced efficiency group. But if you look at that enhanced efficiency group, that's the question is whether what of those enhanced things are included in a home performance program. And I went looking at the home performance, websites and documentation, look at their user manual, what the home performance, if a utility wants to be part of the home performance program, what do they got to agree to? What kind of commitments do they have to get in terms of training? All that. There is almost at the beginning, every time the home performance program is mentioned, it said it's a health and safety and energy efficiency program. But when I go look behind the scenes at what's really required, it's not clear to me. And Jim, you can probably, or somebody else can probably, fill me in on what exactly is required of the home performance program. How are you making sure that contractors are, savvy about, mold and any other issues inside a home, radon, off-gassing from formaldehyde, different things to make sure look, I don't recall anybody doing those formaldehyde kind of measurements when I got a home performance project. So that's what I was wrestling with, Jim, on that is just, which set of studies should we be paying attention to, since those are being cited. If I just look at the base efficiency projects, I don't come to a conclusion even that the direction of the health and safety is a positive benefit. If I look at the enhanced, I think it's more clearly in the positive benefit side, but there are a number of things in there that are that I'm not clear are being done as part of the home performance program, at least in Maryland. And I can give, see, I wrote them down somewhere. I can look at Sabine's the last email, and that with let's see. Let me get her. I can go. Let me in just a second. I'll get her last email, and just give you a list of the things that I don't think are one. Radon is included there. There's no. I don't. As far as I know, asbestos is not in the home performance program, but people can tell me that I'm wrong. And by the way, just one other thing, and I'll shut up. I've got Sheldon has set up a meeting with with the home performance program person from BGE, I think tomorrow, right, Sheldon? So I can talk. I wanted to check in and just see, are y'all really going after this stuff or not?
All right. Thanks, Joe. Anybody else? Anybody have any comments on Sabine's compromise? Yes, Ed.
Yeah. So just to summarize, Sabine, your compromise was suggesting 10% for health and safety, and was that also inclusive of comfort?
Thanks, Ed. No, so that does not include, it's separate from the comfort piece. So in part, we had originally proposed 15%, and the reduction to 10% is in part in recognition that it can be a little difficult to disentangle sometimes. Joe points out, issues like asthma can also be captured in some ways as comfort. But we do think that there are health and safety benefits above and beyond what is classified as occupant comfort. So it's a 10% adder is the proposal just on the home performance with Energy Star, as well as the HVAC upgrades, which are non-electric to electric. So anything that's replacing results in fuel savings, given that has combustion benefit of improving indoor air quality.
Okay, thank you. That was very helpful.
I could just add on that. Our comfort benefit for retrofit programs is about $140 per home per year. And I don't know, what are the savings on home performance, energy savings on home performance programs? Probably, $250 a year or something. And so that benefit is much bigger than anything we're talking about related to health and safety here. The benefit that we already give. So definitely you would not want to do a 10% health and safety that included a comfort and then drop the comfort benefit.
Can you just state that again, those numbers, Joe, that you think the average avoided energy benefit on a home performance project is $250 a year? Is that what you said?
That's what I'm, somebody can correct me on that, but that's about 10% or so of energy consumption for a year. So I'm just throwing out, I think that number seems reasonable to me. And then the benefit, the comfort benefit is about $140 per home per year. So, that's, half or more of the energy savings or comfort is, about more than about a 50% or more adder on top of the energy savings as the current comfort benefit. So the health and safety would be an additional 10% increment. So it's about probably, this is all off the top of my head. Don't stick me to it, but I would guess that a 10% health and safety benefit would be about a 20% addition on top of the comfort, would be about 20% of the comfort benefit.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Any questions or responses to Sabine?
And can I, Judge, I'll just say on my impression, in case anybody cares, I think 10%, given my thought experiment, it seems, I couldn't really argue against it, right? I couldn't argue against 5 if somebody insists on either. As a negotiated, health and safety benefit, it seems within the realm of possibility that, what did I say? That at a 10%, you can go plug it in for yourself. There's an H&S adder cell. If you plug in 10%, you've got basically, 19,000 homes get retrofitted per life saved. It's at least in the realm of possibility to me, I guess. Not having any benchmarks.
Okay. All right. Not quite a ringing endorsement, but not a strong, or not a strong objection either.
That's right.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, Nicole.
Honor Nicole Zeitner on behalf of OPC. I just want to kind of give a caveat that the group that had been discussing our possible compromise had not yet had a chance to discuss Joe's proposal. So we all agreed that we think we could wrap this up in an hour, but there is a concern that if we go into this entirely new evaluation, things might change. So I just wanted to be very clear about that. I don't know how people are feeling in response to Joe's proposals, and obviously he adds so much value to this discussion, and we would want to consider what he has to say. But I just wanted to let Your Honor know that's the situation.
Understood. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Any more comments on either Sabine or Joe? Their comments or proposals? Hopefully they didn't throw too much of a wrench into the negotiations. All right. So if we're going to wait on the discussion of the I guess wait on the results of OPC and the utilities compromises. Let me go back to the straw man then. One of the things I had asked for in my email from last week was any proposals on items 12 through 14 of the straw man. Now I know 12 includes other benefits. Is that kind of on the table or in the discussions by OPC and the utilities? Then I'll say no one actually submitted anything that I recall to address any of these items, which is fine. Yes, Nicole.
Your Honor, and anyone can please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall that we discussed items 12 through 14 on Joe's agenda.
Okay, thank you. So again, no one submitted any proposals on these. Are these items that we want to just kind of discount, throw them out at this point?
I'm sorry, Judge. I'm rushing to try to get that document up on my screen. Can you just remind me what? Can you read it?
Sure.
I thought. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. 12 is other benefits should be included if a directional parentheses net positive or net negative end of parentheses case can be made. Benefits proposed to date by the future program and work group participants include reliability, grid resilience, risk of rate shocks, performance risk, property values, indoor air quality, transactions cost, and rebound.
Yeah. So my impression or opinion is that we are deep into those discussions. Okay. That some of those things that were proposed earlier on kind of fell off the table, and I'm not hearing being proposed. If they are being proposed, then they definitely need to be in the discussions that the utilities and OPC are having. But I don't think I think we've got all of these non-energy benefits that are in play in front of us.
Okay, so as far as you're concerned, or your understanding is, the things I just referenced, again, those were just examples, are kind of already wrapped up in the discussions.
That's right. They were they kind of went away.
Okay.
At some point, like the resilience and reliability were discussed early on. We had some back and forth on those, and then as far as I know, those were kind of taken off the table and were not being pressed on anyway.
Okay. All right. So, again, that's fine. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that we're covering the items that you originally laid out, and
yep.
I apologize if I don't want to go over any ground we've already done, but okay. So yes, Nicole.
Hi, sorry, I was unmuting. I have been corrected, and one of those issues we did discuss, so it is possible we can reach an agreement on one of those.
Okay, that's fine, and I guess as Joe noted, a lot of those issues are, I guess, have already been laid to rest in one form or another. So. All right, so the next item is number 13 is the federal tax and other incentives should be counted as participant benefits in the PCT. They should not be counted as benefits in the SCT. And there's an A and there's and again, and then it says this assumes a global boundary. If a Maryland boundary is used, federal tax incentives should be included in the PCT and SCT. I imagine that could also be covered in whatever OPC and the utilities are discussing. I saw you unmute, Joe.
Oh, I'm on. Oh, yeah. No, I will. On that, I think I'm the only person in the room who has a strong opinion on that, and that is that you do your that tax incentive should be based on your decided boundary, but and consistent with the emissions boundaries that are being assumed. But I have not heard anyone else really having strong feelings about that in the direction that I do. So, and hopefully the utilities and OPC are, have that in the discussion somewhere, since it would be relevant.
All right. Nicole, I'm sorry to keep picking on you. You don't have to keep raising your hand. You can just jump in.
Thank you. No, we thank you. We have been discussing that. So
Okay.
it is possible we can reach an agreement.
All right. Excellent. All right. And don't go anywhere. Because I don't know if you guys are talking about this or not. Market effects. Market effects caused by subject year programs should be included if feasible. If cumulative market effects from past years are included as benefits, the cumulative costs from past years should be included as program costs. That probably sounds like it's beyond whatever you guys are discussing, Nicole. But does anybody have any strong feelings on this, one way or the other? Again, no party submitted proposals. Yes, ma'am, Maren.
Hi, Your Honor. Yeah, I had a thought about it. So when it comes to benefits accruing cumulatively over the years, that makes sense to me. But when you go back and think about the costs, I don't see how they cumulatively accrue each year, cost-wise. I mean, once you've spent that year, spending, it's done. So I guess perhaps Joe could maybe explain or, what he's thinking with that. If I'm a little off base here or.
Yeah. So this is a challenging topic for the industry. I don't think anyone's has been able to successfully wrestle these down. But basically the question is, let's use the lighting program as an example. We've got 10 years of Empower lighting programs and a cumulative, investment in changing the hearts and minds of people and their purchasing decisions. And some of that will stick, even if you didn't do any more program. Tomorrow, you would still have some market transformation that has occurred. And that cumulative kind of changing of hearts and minds is never included in our cost effectiveness analysis. Our cost effectiveness analysis, by the way, we do at least attempt where we can to include 1 year of that market transformation. So we know this year we're going to have one more program, and there will thus be an additional increment of changed hearts and minds, right? And so we do actually try to capture that, in particular in our upstream lighting program and the regression analysis. It has included that, but we do not include that cumulative. And here are at least my arguments for why it would not be right to include that cumulative in our cost effectiveness analysis. Our cost effectiveness analysis is looking forward. We're trying to tell the commission, if we spend this money, what will be the results, right? We're not saying, what if we spent all the money we've spent since 2010? We're saying, what if we spend another increment of money? What are we going to get from it? And including in terms of market transformation and, resource acquisition, all the normal stuff. If the commission said, no, we want to know cumulatively what are the savings, including all those market transformation savings, we'd go out, it would be hard to do, but we could go give an estimate of that. Because as evaluators, we can give estimates of anything you want. But I would be arguing, if you're going to do that and you're looking at it in terms of cost effectiveness, you also need to include all those costs, those cumulative costs. If you're going to say, what did we do over the last 10 years and accomplish? And you're going to count that as a benefit, you're doing a cost benefit, then I would also want to say, well, we couldn't have done that if we didn't spend all that money all those 10 years. And so that's where we're at here now at this point. And we're always open to new arguments and fresh arguments on these kind of things. But And if you already just recall in our one of the early meetings on cost effectiveness, I actually turned it to Ruth Koselowicz from ICF because I know she's a senior hand in this world, and just asked her whether she felt like there was a market transformation literature or kind of protocol or guidance that could be used. And she, unless I misunderstood her, said no, she was not aware of it, and that it's still a challenging issue. There's a lot of arm waving around this issue, but no one's really wrestled it to the ground. And I, in fact, was talking to an old colleague, Mike Ruffo, last night, and he reminded me of a study from 2010 that was done by Mimi Rosenberg, who is a senior person in this field, her and a bunch of other senior people, Fred Siebold and others, that actually talk about how to do a market transformation evaluation framework. And so that was, over 10 years ago, there was some really beefy discussion around this topic, and yet nobody is doing it. And so I'm happy to, by the way, Marin, I would be happy to, or anybody else, I'm happy to share that report if somebody would be interested. But it's a very challenging enterprise.
So your straw proposal is not, the way I'm reading it, it says that the market effects should be included. Am I reading that incorrectly?
Yeah, but it's the market effects from the existing year, from the program year you're talking about, right?
That's the program year.
Yeah, but that's not to say, that's just for cost effectiveness, Marin. If you wanted to have an indicator or something that says over the last 10 years of lighting programs or whatever, this is how the market has been transformed as a result of this program, and go try to estimate what that would be, I certainly would have no objections to that. Just like I'd have no objections to, of course, saying we've created these many jobs, right? It's kind of it's an indicator along those lines. I would just, or at least now until I get other, information, would argue against including that cumulative market transformation effect in a cost benefit analysis of our 2021 programs. That's where I would be challenged.
There's a lot of discussion about this about a decade ago. Is there,
it has continued. Yeah.
Are there any localities that do include it, market cumulative?
Not that I know of, and that's why I was asking Ruth, because ICF might have a better handle on it. I don't. There may be an adder, like a market transformation adders out there or whatever, but we just have to see what the logic behind them was. And but for the most part, I would say it's even more arm wavingly devised than what we're talking about for our non-energy benefits. It's just like, we know there's something there, right? I don't think not many people have, or in fact, some people say we shouldn't even be doing resource acquisition programs. We should only be doing market transformation. That was a big discussion in the early 90s. You shut down all these utility programs and say, no, we shouldn't be doing that. We should be doing market transformation. But in terms of getting around an evaluation protocol that was meaningful, that people could kind of gather around, it's, as far as I know, has not happened to date.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That helps. I still don't have a strong position on this one, though.
Yeah. Well, if you wanted to go and try to dig up some stuff for people who have thought, I think most, I'll say progressively, I'm not saying that I agree with them, but that they've, really are pro getting a hold of those, I would look in the Northwest in particular.
Okay.
That's where I think, a lot of the action is happening. And other people should speak up if they know of other stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marin. Anybody else on this market effects? Joe, are you saying that the market effects, the subject to your program cost should be included if feasible? Are you saying it is feasible?
Yes, I'm saying wherever we can capture the market effects for a given year cost effectiveness,
okay.
The market effects coming from a program in a given year, that we should include it. And I will say that we already do, to the extent that we can and know about it.
Okay. So your straw man's kind of where things sit today.
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
I think, and I have to go remind myself, I still haven't pulled it up. I got to go remind myself exactly the language, but I know what I wrote was not inconsistent with what I think, and I'm telling you what I think. So
All right. All right. Okay. So this is what we do. Does anyone else have any comments, questions on item 14, the market effects? Okay. I'm not seeing any. Okay. Well, I think what we're gonna do right now, unless anyone has a strong objection, is just take an early lunch. And then we can give OPC and the utilities some time to come back and hopefully thread the needle and put cost effectiveness to bed. Anybody, everyone okay with that? All right. Hearing no objections, Nicole, why don't we plan on coming back at 12:30, give you an extra half hour, and if you hit like 12:15 and you think you need some more time, just shoot the group an email or shoot me an email. I can let everybody know. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. We are off. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.